Welcome to the guide, Exile, and welcome to Path of Exile 3.0. With 3.0 comes a whole swath of changes to the game. 6 new acts, new temporary league, new skills, new support gems, new uniques, and of course, many apparent and hidden balance changes. This of course makes starting fresh a massive undertaking if you are not in on all the new goodies. Fear not, because I have developed 2 solid options for starter builds that can take you all the way through to new content, as well as into red tier maps. These are a very simple to gear and level max block Scorching Ray Necromancer, and a cheap and fast stunning Sunder Berserker. Both of these builds have a few ways to go about gearing and speccing them, making for a lot of flexibility and customization. For this guide I will be talking about the max block Scorching Ray Necromancer. At the end of the build guide I will discuss variations and options for the build. Remember that these are starter builds and they are not optimized for Guardians or Shaper. The character demoed in this video is on the 3.0 beta and is only around level 80 with average gear. The max block Scorching Ray Necromancer makes for a very easy to gear, level, and scalable league start character. Offensively, we make use of the spell Scorching Ray as our main offensive skill, which emits a beam of fire that applies a damage over time burn to our enemies. Due to this being a spell, we scale our base damage from the gem and its level, making our damage consistent through leveling as we gather support links. This means that we do not have to worry about getting a really good weapon or consistently upgrading it like an attack-based build. In fact, we can even play with no weapon in endgame maps if we wanted to. We also make use of Elemental Overload, Elemental Equilibrium, and 2 offensive curses to reduce our enemy resistances to amplify our damage even further. Defensively, we make use of the Necromancer class to be able to use offering skills on ourselves through Mistress of Sacrifice. This means we can get Bone Offering to provide us with a free 30% attack and spell block chance. This is a very cheap and efficient way for us to achieve max block. We also get a lot of elemental resistances through the Commander of Darkness Ascendancy point, and throughout the tree for a total of 49% to all elemental resistances. This makes our gearing process very lenient, which is great for a league starter, as we generally have little currency or found gear when starting a league. We also grab Mind Over Matter, which provides us with 30% more effective life at the cost of leaving a large portion of our mana unreserved. Finally, we gather the Flask nodes above the Witch in the tree for powerful boosts to our Flasks for further mitigations. The playstyle of this character is very simple. We only have to concern ourselves with positioning as we move from monster pack to monster pack. We make use of a shield charge to move around, gaining Fortify, lay down an Orb of Storms to proc our Elemental Overload, Elemental Equilibrium, and Curses, and quickly sweep over the pack of monsters with our Scorching Ray. White and magic monsters will generally die from a quick sweep without even having to use an Orb of Storms, while rare and unique monsters will require you to target them a bit longer, laying down your Orb of Storms. Recall that we are applying a damage over time with Scorching Ray, so you can move on from the monster once it is on low life, and the dot will finish it off. The passive trees and path of building paste bin are included in the description. Now let's discuss the build in more depth. Some of the pros of this build include, it's very flexible and cheap to gear, easy and scalable damage output, quick and mobile playstyle. It can run both reflect modifiers, as Scorching Ray is a damage over time and does not perform a hit, so you will not reflect its damage. And finally, you get max block and Mind Over Matter for defensive layers. Some cons are, Scorching Ray has low damage until around level 50, so we will make use of some other spells while leveling. We are not stun immune, so we can get stunned while channeling, however this can be remedied by the Pantheon system. And finally, this is not the maximum damage of Scorching Ray that we could build. For our class in Ascendancy, we are choosing the Witch and Necromancer. As mentioned previously, this provides us with a lot of defense, quality of life, and some offense without having to even set foot in Uber Labyrinth. As the Necromancer, we gain the ability to apply offering skills on ourselves with Mistress of Sacrifice, letting us use Bone Offering to gain upwards of 30% attack and spell block. Having block is a massive layer of defense and allows us to tank more hits as we are performing our Scorching Ray. It also provides us with more skill effect duration, making our Bone Offering and Scorching Ray burn last longer. Spirit Eater provides us with more damage and speed from consuming corpses, which we do quite often to keep our Bone Offering up. Commander of Darkness provides us with a lot of elemental resistances, as well as some damage and speed. This gives us more freedom in our gearing. If we do ever complete Uber Labyrinth, we can get Beacon of Corruption, which provides us with chaos resistance for quality of life. For Ascendancy progression, I would follow this order. Commander of Darkness is chosen first to provide you with the needed resistances to counteract the negative 30% elemental resistance loss at the end of Act 5. Once you get Mistress of Sacrifice, you can begin to make use of Bone Offering to provide yourself some more defense. Within our passive tree, the main keystones that we grab are Elemental Overload, 40% more elemental damage since we cannot crit with Scorching Ray. Elemental Equilibrium, since Scorching Ray is a dot, it never hits, thus Scorching Ray will not cause Elemental Equilibrium to trigger on fire damage, and it will only be triggered by our Orb of Storms, which is lightning damage. Mind over Matter, for the 30% effective life increase. Here's the complete endgame passive tree. Defensively, we get life, mana and block, as well as life and mana regen when we can. Offensively, we pick up elemental, fire, burning damage, as well as jewel sockets and cast speed where possible. I would follow this tree progression into the final tree. For bandits, we will be killing all of them for the extra 2 skill points. You will only want to grab Elemental Equilibrium once you are using pure Scorching Ray, sometime after level 50. Some useful pantheons for the build include Soul of the Brine King. This will help us since we're not stun immune. This means we will see less stuns during their time playing. Soul of Tukahama. This will give us extra physical mitigation as we are standing still casting Scorching Ray, as well as some more life regeneration. Here are the following gem links for the build. Support gem links are shown in order of importance. Some uniques that are required for this build include the Stone of Lazwar. This is a very cheap unique and provides us with 50% of our attack block as spell block. This is very important for maxing out our block chance. Dodre's Damning. This ring allows us to apply 2 curses to an enemy, and frees us from getting Whispers of Doom in the tree. Other useful but not required uniques include Hrimnor's Resolve for the extra fire damage, a Cloak of Defiance for the extra Mind over Matter effects, base mana, and mana regen. This will most likely be an expensive chest at the beginning of the league. The Lionized Remorse for large amounts of life, armor, and block chance to give us some more defense. Doriani's Catalyst provides a massive amount of elemental damage, but is generally expensive in the early portion of a league. A Brightbeak for large amounts of attack speed, allowing you to shield charge very quickly. As mentioned before, you can get away without using an elemental scepter for clearing all the way up to red tier maps. This is also the weapon I'm using within the demo video. For gear, we will want to look at armor and energy shield hybrid bases to make coloring our links easier. It will also provide us a small armor base and give us access to the new hybrid plus armor plus to maximum life prefix. Here are the affixes that we want to look for on our gear along with some example gear. For using some skill gems, we will be required to gather a bit more strength and dexterity. We can spec a few passive points into the plus 30 nodes in the tree until we get it on gear. There are only a few requirements of your rare gear. For your weapon, it should be a scepter providing % elemental damage as an implicit. This also allows you to perform a shield charge. For your shield, you will want to get one with at least 30% block chance. For gloves, you will want to look for gloves with the dexterity suffix. For recovery flasks, we will want to ensure that we have the following: a Divine Life Flask, and a Sanctified Mana Flask. Now on these, you will want to roll them to be instant flasks, either bubbling or seething versions. For utility flasks, you will want to make use of the following. A Sulfur Flask will give you increased damage and Consecrated Ground that provides 4% life regeneration while you stand in it. a Basalt Flask for the flat reduction to physical damage, a Silver Flask to increase the attack, cast, and movement speed for helping out your Scorching Ray and Shield Charge. Here are some unique flask options for the build. A Witchfire Brew. This allows us to apply our vulnerability through a flask and then link Arcane Surge to our Orb of Storms, providing us more damage, cast speed, and mana regeneration. A Rumi's Concoction. This will allow us to completely cap both of our attack and spell block chance. This can replace your Basalt Flask. For leveling, I recommend going with the following gem progression. At level 1, you will want to get a Freezing Pulse, and link that with your Arcane Surge, as well as pick up a Burning Trap. At level 4, you will want to get a Flame Totem and a Frost Bomb. At level 10, you will want to get a Flame Dash, and link it with Arcane Surge. You will then want to take your Freezing Pulse and link that with added Lightning and added Cold. At level 12, you will want to get Firestorm in place of your Freezing Pulse. You can then link that with added Lightning and added Cold, along with linking your Flame Totem with added Lightning and added Cold. You will also want to pick up and begin leveling a Scorching Ray. Between level 15 and 18, you will want to get 2 Quartz Scepters, and for each you will want to do the following. Transmute them to make them magic, and then trade them to a vendor with 1 Alteration Orb and a Ruby Ring to get a +1 Socketed Fire Gems Scepter. Place the following gems into each of them. A Firestorm, Elemental Focus, and Controlled Destruction, a Firestorm, an Elemental Focus, and a Spell Totem. You can now drop Flame Totem. At level 38, you will want to switch to Scorching Ray, Cast Wind Channeling, and Firestorm, along with an Elemental Focus. This is a very powerful setup and will carry you through the rest of leveling. After you are above level 50, you can switch to pure Scorching Ray at your leisure, and can also get Elemental Equilibrium. I also recommend getting and using an Orb of Storms once you spec into Elemental Overload to keep your Elemental Overload procs consistent. Firestorm will also trigger it frequently. You can self-cast the Flammability Curse until you get Curse on Hit with Orb of Storms at level 38. Once you're above level 60, you can buy a white 5-link armor energy shield piece for next to nothing. Ensure that its eye level is above 60, and use an Essence of Greed on it or simply Alch and Scour it and hope for a decent life roll, since we are not heavily dependent on elemental resistances. Here are some possible build variations. I'm not going to include Righteous Fire build options as it does complicate gearing, and I want to keep these builds as simple and straightforward as possible. I will not discuss these versions in complete, but I will provide a summary and paste bin for the Path of Building code. A Scorching Ray Trickster. This version makes use of the Shadow Trickster Ascendancy to gain more damage over time, mana regeneration bonuses for our Mind Over Matter, and Frenzy Charge generation for attack, cast, and movement speed, as well as more damage. We take very similar tree pathing as we did with the Necromancer. However, since we cannot use offering skills on ourselves, we drop our block defense, trading it for more improved regeneration and damage. This also frees up our necklace slot, and a 4-link to place whichever skill selection you would like in it, possibly shifting the tree to get some more life regeneration to allow for a Righteous Fire setup, if you so wish. A Scorching Ray Inquisitor. This version makes use of the Templar's Inquisitor Ascendancy to gain more elemental damage, reduced elemental damage taken, as well as improved consecrated ground effects that provide 6% life and mana regeneration while standing in it. This melds very well with Mind Over Matter. Like with the Trickster, we trade our block defense for more damage, attack speed, and cast speed, as well as improved life and mana regeneration. As with the Trickster, we free up our necklace slot and a 4-link that can hold any skills that you would like to add to the build. Overall, this build provides a solid starter for the beginning of a league. You get an easy and steady scaling spell to make use of, low requirements for gear, and a fair selection of defensive layers to keep you safe. If you weren't sure of what to start with the 3.0 release, now you know. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one, Exile.